Welcome into the NFL Opening Line Report Super Bowl edition. We are breaking down the Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles spread total, but mainly props on this show. I am Drew Martin, joined as always by Teddy Covers. Teddy, happy Monday morning to you, buddy. Super Bowl week is upon us. Welcome into the show.
It sure is upon us. You ready? I'm ready. I'm telling you, the energy in Vegas is awesome. In the 2 weeks, leading up to Super Bowl, you go out and about in town and just there's buzz. The sports books are busy. Everyone's excited. There's money flowing in. And, of course, the lines are moving. So I love this time of year in Vegas. And this is kind of the calm before the storm. The vast majority of big game action comes in the 72 hours before kickoff, Friday, Saturday, Sunday morning. So what we've seen now, we've seen what the wise guys like. So we can talk about it on today's show. As you mentioned, mostly props. But let's start with side and total because I think what I said last week has held up. Nothing's happening. And that's the truth.
Teddy, I was actually going to give you props. I mean, we've talked about this before in big time games and coming up to like week one of the NFL. There's movement when it first comes out, and then there's a little bit of a dead period. And there isn't much movement unless there's some kind of key injury or something, which to my knowledge, there is not here with the Super Bowl. So it's kind of the norm to have this little dead period. And then like you're talking about 72 hours before, there's going to be some big movement here, possibly.
Not on the side and total.
Okay.
It's going nowhere. All right. I mean, we talked about it last week at the Open. I'm like, I don't see this side moving a whole lot. I don't see this total moving a whole lot. And that's been the case. I've heard reports and rumors from some of my sharp friends in town. They think Philly money's going to show before kickoff. That being said, I'm seeing some of the consensus numbers showing that KC's, 2/3 plus of the public money coming in on Kansas City. I don't know that we're going to see this wise guy move towards Philly happen in any real way. Again, hasn't happened yet. Looking at the WagerTalk free live odds screen, there's no indicators. There's no leading indicator books that are saying Philly's about to take money. I'm not this expected wise guy support for Philadelphia that hasn't really come through yet. Maybe it'll come, and maybe it'll be enough to move the line, but I'm not seeing signs of it. And again, I would expect Kansas City to go off in this same range that we're seeing them now, -1, -1.5, money line. Total sitting in the 49 range. I don't think that's doing anything. Money line still in the -120 to -130 range for the Chiefs, depending on where you shop around. I don't see that moving a whole lot between now and kickoff. But like I said, some of my sharp friends are fairly confident that money will show for Philadelphia before kickoff. Whether it's enough money in on a game of this magnitude to move the number, we'll have to see. But there is some sharp support for Philadelphia. Then again, there was sharp support for KC right at the Open. So I'm not anticipating anything. Not side, not total. And again, the public's going to come in with some over money. The wise guys are going to take everything above 49 and bet the under. So this line's not moving a whole lot. I don't see a whole lot of movement between now. We're talking about the 72 hours. Even in those 72 hours, I'm not expecting this line to move in any significant way. Meaning Philadelphia becomes a favorite, meaning Kansas City gets to 3. Neither one of those things is going to happen.
Sure, Teddy. And we are seeing -1.5, 49 to be the consensus number right now. However, there is -1 out there, select shops. If you go to the WagerTalk live odds screen, there's also 48.5 with juice to the over out there. So like Teddy's saying, there isn't a whole lot of movement to this point. And we're likely not to get any, both sides and totals is what it sounds like, TC. Before we get into the props, did you want to throw out anything else with side and total?
I mean, we could beat the dead horse to death if you want.
No, we're good.
Total-wise, we will see a dichotomy between the books that cater to public bettors and the books that cater to wise guys. The public bettors are going to bet the over in this game. The wise guys have already made a case for the under. So that is legit sharp square divide. Pros, under, Joes, over. Sidewise, two-way action. And that's I don't anticipate any type of the sharp book's going to be at this and the square book's going to be at this for the side. But for the total, there could well be, 48.5 at the sharp books, 49.5 at the square books, and that 49 off, obviously a key number, which is why we genuinely and repeatedly encourage you have more accounts. Not about putting everything in one account. It's about having every legal account available to you so you can get those free half points as opposed to buying them just by shopping around.
Sure. And a good resource is using the WagerTalk live odds screen as well, guys. Check them out and get the best number. So, Teddy, talking about some props here. Of course, it is a fun thing to bet. Like we talked about last week, though. Don't kind of pepper the board too much, guys. That's one bit of advice I would give TC. So I have done Super Bowls in my past where I've just had too many prop bets, and it's like not enjoyable to watch because you don't really know what to root for. That's one bit of advice I would have if you're just kind of getting into this. But Teddy, I'll throw it over to you, man. What's kind of on your mind betting some of these props?
So I want to refer first to what you were talking about right there. All right. This is Christmas for sports bettors. All right. The Super Bowl is our national betting holiday, and everyone wants to bet. I do, you do, Drew does, everybody does. Okay. It's okay. Keep your unit sizes small, and you can pepper the board with action. If you're used to betting $100, maybe you bet $20 on these props, and you can pepper the board. All right, $20 here, $20 there, no big deal. You used to betting a dime, maybe you bet 100 or 200 on your props, and keep your unit sizes small. It takes a lot of the stress out of the equation and puts a lot more of the fun into the equation. Not that these aren't positive expectation wagers. All right. There are certainly positive expectation wagers. And many of the sharp bettors I know will load up on Super Bowl Sunday. They'll have their entire bankroll in play in one way or another. Now, some of that is certainly, looking for middles, where they're betting under a high number and then over a lower number. And, that's not all truly at risk. But lots of sharp guys put a significant portion of their bankroll in play this week. As a casual bettor, we don't want to do that. All right. You don't want to do that. So it's okay to pepper the board and make a good handful of wagers. I've got a 9-play prop report up at WagerTalk.com. I'm going to talk about a couple of them here in a minute. But my unit sizes are small. I usually bet 3, 4, 5 units for an NFL game, and my prop bets are quarter of a unit, half a unit for what it's worth, so significantly smaller. And that's the way to have fun on Super Bowl Sunday. Keep your bets small, keep your prop bets small. You can make a bunch of them, but don't go nuts on this stuff. And of course, I'm sitting here with the this is Superbook sheet. It's 50 pages, and it's just it's insane. Going through it is like reading a book. And then as you go through it, you want to have a handicap of the game in the back of your mind. You're coming up with a whole bunch of stuff. Hey, let's go, circle. Let's come back to this. Circle, let's back to this. Look at the hard numbers. I found 9 that I like. There were a good handful that I probably could have bet too. They didn't put on the report because I didn't want too much. Let's look at some of them now. Here's one that I bet. All right. This is one other factor here, Drew, before we start getting into some of this stuff. This is classic sharp square divide stuff, and it's important to talk about. The pros are very willing to lay juice, betting a lot to win a little when they have the odds in their favor on Super Bowl Sunday. So many of the props you're going to hear me talk about today, they're not plus price props. They're minus price props, but they're favorites for a reason. The casual bettor's looking to bet a little to win a lot. The professional bettor, the wise guy, is much more comfortable betting a lot to win a little than the casual bettors. And that's the way you kind of chip away. At least I do a lot on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not betting the yes safety or the yes overtime or the yes missed extra point. Even though we could have missed extra point here. The big plus price props are, I'm not going to call them sucker bets, but they're certainly public bets. We've seen overtimes. We've seen safeties. It happens. But the math isn't right to back those relatively long shot propositions. They're square bets. I don't make them. I'm very comfortable laying prices as opposed to taking prices. And the props I'm going to talk about right here, I don't think there's any of them that are plus price. I was looking for one. I'm like, there's got to be one good one plus price here, and I didn't. I don't have one for you on my list of stuff I wanted to talk about. So Let's talk about some props, Drew, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely, TC. And it sounds like you went over some game props. Most of these sports books, it's like game props, and then it's another tab for player props. And sometimes I notice player props, yes, they'll get up to like minus 140, minus 150, but a lot of times you can tell they're trying to keep it around that minus 110, Teddy. So in that standpoint, I don't know that there would be like as big of a sharp square, like lay a lot to win a little. Whereas these games like go to overtime, things of that nature, that gets a little tricky in terms of just the price point on some of those.
Sure, and so there's certainly a player prop we're going to talk about right off the bat. Let's talk about Patrick Mahomes, because this is one I was at the Westgate Superbook for the prop party on Thursday night when all the numbers come up, and I'll give the Westgate credit. I really will. The marketplace has changed dramatically. When they used to have the prop party on Thursday night, they were basically posting into a virgin market. Virgin numbers, and there was a first action out there. Now, in the modern world, FanDuel, DraftKings, MGM, Caesar, they all had props out already. So they were putting their numbers up into a mature marketplace. And yet they didn't change their strategy at all. It was like, we're going to post our numbers, and if we're going to get arbitrage, we'll get arbitrage, so be it. We think our numbers are right, which is something I respect. As opposed to, all right, now we're going to put up market numbers on this stuff. And a lot of the first bets, they were estimating 50, 60% of the first bets coming in are all arbitrage on Thursday night. That being said, certainly one thing that got hit was they were betting both quarterbacks rushing yards over. Yards over, attempts over. Patrick Mahomes got hit pretty significantly. They moved the yardage. Usually they're going to move the juice. They actually moved the yards up on Mahomes, so to set themselves up for a middle. But Mahomes rushing yards now at 30.5 from the opener, 28.5 at the Westgate. And that's one that got immediate wise guy action right from the get-go. Mahomes over rushing yards, Mahomes over rushing attempts, and Hurts too took action. Both QBs expected to run the football. And that's some of the first bets that we saw, some of the bigger bets that we saw on the Thursday night at the Westgate. And it's always fun down there, dude. It's a wise guy party, dude. I see a bunch of guys I haven't seen in a while. A lot of times you see them at the beginning of football season. You see them all summer in August when you're running around getting numbers, and you don't see them again until Super Bowl rolls around. So it's always fun. It's always a scene in there. And it's one of those, if you're going to come to Vegas for an event, you're not coming in for the Westgate prop release on Thursday night. You're coming in for the Super Bowl itself or for March Madness or something like that. But it is one of those deals. If you happen to be in town, it's really worth going down and checking out our friends at the Westgate. So here's one that I wanted to, I'm not seeing it widely available. Total turnovers in the game. I saw there was under 2.5 juiced to the under. All right. Interceptions, 1.5 juiced. Was it minus 140 to the under? 1.5 to the over on interceptions. Fumbles, 1.5. The under is minus 270. That's lost fumbles. When we look at KC and Philadelphia, something that really stands out. Neither team turns the ball over very much. And in a game like this, where I personally am not expecting to see this isn't going to be a 14 possession game. This is going to be like an 8, 9, 10 possession game. Fewer possessions, fewer chances for turnovers. I like under on the turnover props. I don't see whether you find the total turnovers, interceptions, fumbles. They're both a little juicy, but I don't see either QB throwing a whole lot of picks, and I don't see, again, the fumbles, which Philadelphia has been very lucky with in the postseason. Lost fumbles is the key here. Remember, the fumble itself doesn't do anything. A lost fumble, you need 2 of those to cash your over bet. This is one that made my card. Number of different players to have a pass attempt in this ballgame. I took the under 2.5, and I laid, minus 180 with it, and I was very comfortable with that. Go look at the season for Philadelphia and Kansas City. You know how many non-quarterbacks have thrown a pass for these two teams this year? 0. That's regular season. That's postseason. 0 non-QBs. Now, Carson Wentz threw pass. We saw, we saw when Hurts was banged up. We've seen backup QBs come in and play. Mm-hmm. So basically, if you're taking the under 2.5 players to have a pass attempt in the game with the juice, you're saying the quarterbacks aren't going to get hurt. In a game of this magnitude, I'm not expecting anyone but Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts to throw a pass. This isn't one of those, all right, yeah, let's line it up and try this particular trickery. We may see some trickery here, but I don't think the trickery comes with another player throwing a pass. When you have Hurts on one side, Mahomes on the other, you don't want your punter throwing passes or any of that nonsense. So I played under 2.5, minus 180, and I thought that was, again, reasonably priced for two teams that haven't done it all season.
Teddy, I don't know if you want me to jump in here and ask some questions, but I love that bet. I love the way that you structured it like that. I've done this in the past and cashed. You did bring up the Carson Wentz thing, but that almost comes into, a bet of, does a quarterback get injured and then another quarterback have to come in, which could happen, but still at minus 180, I'd like your bet. One question I would have for you, and I haven't done this research, is are any of the wide receivers, were they quarterbacks in college? You know what I mean? Like they've really been hiding that.
Sure. Is this a Josh Dobbs situation or something?
Exactly.
And this is what we know, okay? Nobody other than the QBs have thrown a pass all year.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Okay.
But maybe they were hiding. I don't know. I just like the research.
Maybe they're saving it, they're saving it. But again, if you're in the biggest game, do you want someone that, do you want your running back? And I can't think of anyone from either team that was.
No, me neither, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a running back. It'd be a receiver most likely. But no, like the bet, man.
Yeah, thank you. I hope it cashes. It's great to like it. So we're shorting turnovers. We're shorting the number of players to have a pass attempt. Let's short the shortest touchdown. And this didn't make my card for one reason. All right, didn't make my card because I'm leaning under in this game, and I don't think there's going to be a ton of possessions, which means I don't think there's going to be a ton of touchdowns. And if I don't think there's going to be a ton of touchdowns, I don't want to be betting shortest touchdown or longest touchdown of the game props because you don't get enough TDs. That being said, shortest touchdown of the game under 1.5 yards. What's that? Minus 165. I'm not sure if that's still the number, but that's a little juice. Again, shortest TD has to be a 1 yard touchdown to cash, and it's minus 165 favorite. What does that tell you? It tells you we're likely to see a 1 yard touchdown cash. One time, what does Philly do when they get to the one? Tush push. That's worked pretty well over the years. What's the chances of a pass interference or a penalty in the end zone that gives the ball someone the first and goal at the one? Fairly reasonable. These type of things happen. So shortest touchdown of the game under 1.5 yards. Again, it's juicy. And I didn't bet it, but I certainly lean in that direction. Is the shortest TD under 1.5 yards. That's one that made a whole lot of sense to me. Score the final minutes of the final 2 minutes of the first half. I saw minus 330 on the yes for this prop.
Okay.
I really expect to see it's a little bit juicy. Again, it was too juicy to make my card. All right, I didn't want to lay 3.5 to 1 or close to it for a score in the final 2 minutes of the first half. But these two teams can score with 7 seconds. That last drive before halftime is a drive that the offenses take unbelievably seriously and they game plan for. And we expect at least one of the two teams to score in the final 2 minutes. And if they score right at the 2 minute warning, that's a cash as well. So I do like a score in the final 2 minutes of the first half. But again, that's juicy, minus 330. So I've gone through turnovers, shortest touchdown, final 2 minutes of the first half, Mahomes rushing yards, different players to have a pass attempt. Will the score be tied after 0-0? Yes, minus 120. I didn't bet it. It just makes sense to me in a game that's priced in this range. That said, when you have a kicker who's missing extra points and field goals like Philadelphia has of late, that can be dicey. So that's why I didn't play that specifically because I was worried, you can hedge off that with Elliott to miss an extra point or something. But if you start hedging off your props, then you end up with ridiculous amount of stuff. But that's one that certainly caught my eye. And then, like I said, I've got 9 plays up for the clients. You got You got at least a couple of those now. I got one that's a pure free play that I posted on my page, wt.buzz/TC. I've given you some here. I gave you some last week. And you know how it is. We're doing free play videos from WagerTalk. If you haven't done so, we appreciate the likes. We appreciate the comments very much. But if you subscribe to the channel, you'll get a shit ton of content every day, man. It's incredible how much content we're putting out. And that includes Super Bowl props and all that kind of stuff. I've got videos that I'm planning on doing tomorrow for that. So check out the WagerTalk YouTube channel for more prop betting info.
Well said, Teddy. Guys, shout out to the live chat right now. We got Paul Blakeney in the house, Titan CT, Dan Chambers, Sports Avenger, Memorabilia, Larry in the house as well. We got Southern California, San Diego, Carlsbad, home of the San Diego Chargers, I'm seeing. So, guys, feel free to throw out any questions in the live chat. We got a couple coming your way here, Teddy. But first, I wanted to throw out one and get your kind of thoughts on this. You bring up the kickers having a little bit of trouble. It's towards that realm, the specialists. But if you check out these punters, Teddy, guess what we get? We get two Ray Guy Award punters facing off here. Braden Mann, Texas A&M. He's the punter for the Eagles. And Matt Ariza, you might remember his name, from San Diego State. He's sure enough made his rookie season now with the Chiefs. He had an unfortunate situation. Teddy, I was seeing 48 as the average for both of these two guys. They've both gone over 70 yards in terms of punt this season. We get controlled climate. They're in New Orleans, and both you also talked about kind of those short yard situations. I don't think we're going to get a lot of kind of short yardage punts. I like the over for the average of both of these two punters. Do you like anything there?
So it's a question that takes a lot to unpack. Let's start with this. Conceptually, last week, when Philadelphia and Kansas City were in their respective championship games, we saw a boatload of fourth down conversion attempts. No one was punting. Everyone was going for it. And Philly didn't have to worry about it too much. They were pretty well comfortably in control of their game against Washington, and the offense moved the ball up and down the field. They didn't have to worry about punting that much. So we have to start that particular prop or any punting prop by saying how many punts they're going to be. Do we expect a lot of punts or do we expect a few punts? And I think we'll see, even though I'm expecting a relatively shortened game with longer drives and slower pace, it's a scenario where I would expect we're going to see punts and not going for it on fourth down the way we saw last time around. It's a different feel to the two opponents. Washington was a dead nuts over team. Buffalo, in a sense, was a dead nuts over team. Both those offenses were explosive and extraordinary. And both Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni were like, we don't want field goals. We want touchdowns today. I feel like the Super Bowl itself could be different from that, which means more punts for what that's worth. I have a punt prop on my card, and it kind of correlates with this. It's the only plus price that I took, and it's on a punt prop. And it stood out to me just looking at recent form of these two kickers. Certainly, you're talking about two guys that have elite legs. But when you look at recent results, there have been some issues. But the issues aren't short kicks. Now, you talk about, are we going to see the pin deep, from the 48-yard line? If Casey's cross midfielder at the 48, are they going to punt and try to pin him deep, or are they going to go for it on fourth down? I wouldn't be surprised if we see some pin deeps in this one. That being said, if it's like the last Super Bowl and the offenses between these two teams and the offenses are boom, boom, boom down on the field, the game will play out differently. But if it's not like the 38-35 shootout, we're going to see punts, and we may see some coffin corner kicks in a way that perhaps you're not expecting. So, again, I'm not betting it. It certainly makes some sense. We are talking about two real good kickers, two real good punters. And if you're punting from the 30, we can get the rolls. And, a 70-yard punt goes a long way towards helping you cash that over. I'm not going to talk you out of it. Not a bet on Prime to make.
No, and that's a great point, Teddy. And I spent a lot of time researching it in terms of trying to stay away from like the coffin corner where you lose, and it's not because of the talent of the punter. It's just the situation that happened, like you just went over. But I do agree there could be more punts, but I don't necessarily agree that in plus territory, these two teams aren't going to go for it. I think that's a difference. And if they're punting from this side of the 50, like you said, on the 30-yard line, I mean, I'm feeling good if they line up for a punt and either of these two guys is punting from their own 30.
Sure. Anytime you got a guy whose nickname is the punt god,
Yeah.
Arezia at Utah was, is as good as college kicker punter as I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, San Diego State.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, my apologies. Who am I thinking of from Utah?
Not sure.
Don't know. Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else. Some phantom thing in my head. Yeah. Sorry. San Diego State. Well done. Yeah, Drew. Thank you. And when I'm wrong, look, I'm wrong all the time. I'm on the air. The brain doesn't work quite as well as it did 30 years ago. If I'm wrong, correct me. I don't in the chat, by all means, in the comments. It's fine. My feelings don't get hurt. I'd rather the correct information get out there than me giving the wrong college to someone. Who the hell was Matt? It was a guy. It was Guy from Utah. Was it? And he's on.
Oh yeah.
His last name was Guy. Yeah.
Well, Teddy, we do have some questions. Do you want to throw out anything else though with the props?
I mean, I'm done with it. Really. I mean, okay. I've given you props. I've given you thought process on the whole Super Bowl. I've given you as much side total as I can give you. Question away, my friend.
All right, Paul Blakeney from the other side of the pond in Essex, England. Welcome on in. Yeah, he's in the house. We got Titans CT in the house. Question, Teddy, with the logic of Kansas City's defense focusing on Barkley, do you like his reception yards over 14 and a hook?
No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the receptions to a running back, that's kind of tough. That's a tough handicap.
So Pacheco's one guy you might want to target for receptions this week. That's one that he's done in the Super Bowl in the past. He's been underutilized since returning to health. Pacheco's the guy I would look at for receptions of the RBs. But one thing that I'm really not looking to do is bet a bunch of overs. Okay, everyone wants everything over. This is going over. That's going over. This is going. Oh, it has to go over. And obviously Barkley can do that on one catch. And it wouldn't shock me if he did. But it's not a bet that caught my eye. It's not a bet that I made.
Sports Avenger asking, does this game is it considered emergency betting alert game? Any emergency betting alerts here in the prop market, TC?
So from side and total standpoint, there. I mean, like I said, when we talked last Monday, I'm like, there's nothing doing with this line, and it hasn't moved, and there's no emergency betting alert for that, and nothing. The emergency betting alerts are in theory useful when the lines are fresh. We got virgin numbers we talk about Monday morning. When you can see this line is likely to move, this one's likely to get hit, we can talk about emergency betting alerts. I probably could have talked about this when it came to the props on Thursday night, but when they opened at Westgate. But we're in a mature market right now. Mature market for props, mature market side and total. So the emergency betting alerts, it's too late. There are none. The money's already moved.
Teddy, you brought up going to the Westgate on Thursday night. Are there any names you want to throw out there? Like good conversations, people you were excited to see?
I'm trying to think who people would know. I saw Doug Kazarian down there. It's always good to see Doug. You remember Doug from his ESPN days. Patrick Everson's another guy who's out and about all the time in terms of reporting on the sports betting industry. He was down there. It's always good to see Pat. Surprising number of odds makers around. Rex Byers is down. Rex Byers is always a fun to talk to. I used to have him on my Sirius XM show as a guest, and a former bookmaker and certainly a guy who's got a lot of personality and a lot of opinions. He's always fun to talk to. And then, there was a good handful of wise, the wise guys I'm not going to talk about. I'm not going to drop names. But you guys know who they are. they're the famous sports bettors who are out there. And either they or their representatives, many of them were in line at the Superbook. So I don't know. What other names were there? I don't know.
Teddy, you brought up something in terms of Westgate not changing what they're doing, and that's one thing that's bothered me in the sports betting industry. If I had to say one thing of the legalized sports book that I'm not a fan of, it's you can just tell that there will be a book that opens up the line regardless of what sport it is. There's an opening book, and granted, they're not taking a lot of money, and you can just go down the list. I mean, college basketball is a great one to do this with. Go look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. There will be a global book that opens up side and total all the way down, and then 5 minutes later, 2 to 3 other books go right down, and they're within a half a point of almost all of them, Teddy. So it tells me, in some of these risk rooms around, it's really like, it's not that tough of a job. You just kind of go down and you copy off of the first one almost, man. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. It's not really a good thing for the sports bettors, in my opinion.
No, I mean, there's always been that sense of that. But as long as you have books out there that are willing to take opinions, that are willing to, let's give the Westgate credit. Here's a mature market. The Westgate is like, well, we're not going to copy those numbers. Let's put our numbers out. We think our numbers are better. And that's a ballsy move. That's only a move you can make when you don't have bean counters on your ass every day, because sometimes you're right on this stuff and sometimes you're wrong on this stuff. And when the bean counters are giving you grief, you can't make moves like that. So we'll give the Westgate credit for doing that. But it's not a scenario, Drew, in which one book or any given book is controlling the markets. All right. It is a diffuse marketplace out there. And we talk about the industry leaders, whether it's DK, whether it's FanDuel, whether it's Caesars, MGM, those are the 4 biggest books. And between them, they're like 90% of the market or close to it. Though none of those books are great for wise guy bettors. All right. Not a one of them. Everybody gets limited. And if you bet successfully, you have a problem maintaining relationship with those books. That's one of the advantages of the betting exchanges, of the smaller books when it comes to a national footprint, but the books here in Vegas, like Westgate, like South Point, like Circa, who will take a bet and won't limit you. So, I mean, to me, that's impactful in that sense. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
No, it's fine. Lee in the house saying thoughts on over 49. Lee, actually, in the beginning of the video, we went over both side and total. It kind of leads me into, though, totals betting. I don't know that we went over this one, at least on this show yet, though, Teddy. One that's fun for me is, first score of the game. 5 minutes in, 6 minutes in, 7 minutes in. Any thought on that one? Because that's more the rip off your Band-Aid, sweat it out right in the beginning of the Super Bowl. I know a lot of people like that one.
Yeah, it's certainly better than the over-under on the national anthem, which is always a sweat. But what's interesting at the Westgate, and I like this, will either team score in the first 3.5 minutes of the game? Yes, plus $4. Will either team score in the first 4.5 minutes of the game? Yes, plus $240. Will either team score in the first 5.5 minutes of the game? Yes, plus $130. Will either team score in the first 6.5 minutes of the game? That's the minus 110 either way. Will either team score in the first 7.5 minutes of the game? Yes, minus 175. So between 3.5 at yes plus $4 and 7.5 minutes at minus 175, if you want to know, you can bet them all.
And Teddy, I believe that it's either the 5.5 or the 6.5 is on a 6-1 the last 7 years to no score. It's been a slow start to Super Bowls, if you will. Even though some Super Bowls have been higher scoring, not in the beginning.
So again, I have one of those on my client report.
Okay.
And I'm with you on the concept of the game starting a little bit slow. And that's just the way these games roll. And look, someone could take the opening kick and methodically move down the field and punch in a score on the first drive of the game, and you can still cash on your there are no bets as long as the drive is longer and slower. You don't even need a punt. You just need a longer, slower drive to open the game, even if it's a scoring drive. And if you can get 5.5, 6.5, 7.5 minutes out of it, like both these teams are capable of doing on any given day, you can cash that over bet, even if they score on the first drive.
Teddy, feel free to be short with this. Any novelty props that you get involved with? Do you have any opinions on any of them? Halftime, Taylor Swift, anything like that?
So back in the day, I used to spend a ton of time working on this stuff. And I went back and looked at my results for putting that time in, and my results it wasn't worth it. So all the cross sports prop, they're interesting to consider, but it's a big handicap. And now you're adding to the questions of, it's not just one side is question. Now both sides you have to handicap. You know what I mean? You're not just handicapping one player. You're handicapping, okay, I have to handicap this one player, and I have to handicap whether the Red Wings are going to get a goal in the first period or not, or that kind of stuff. It adds more uncertainty to it. So again, fun, recreational, $5 here, $10 there, $20 there, $50 there, fine. Go have a good time. But they're not bets that I've put a lot of time into. The Taylor Swift stuff, again, the what will the announcer say stuff. I mean, again, you might be able to find edges. I'd rather put my time in handicapping basketball right now. That's where the money is moving forward, not trying to figure out Taylor Swift. And, we had a great weekend betting hoops this past weekend, and then we'll see if we can keep it rolling in the new week. But in a time management issue, I'm not going to spend a shit ton of time working on Taylor Swift props and how long the national anthem's going to be or what color the Gatorade is going to be. There's more money and better bets to be made putting your time elsewhere. There really is.
Yeah, and by this time, a lot of them have moved anyway. Like, for instance, we talked last week on what the MVP will say first, who he will thank first. And we brought up God/religion. And I brought up the fact Patrick Mahomes, he did it last time. He's like a pretty good, with his speech. And sure enough, Teddy, I went and looked before. It's minus 190 now. So the market moves on this stuff. It's not rocket science,
sure. Significantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's, one of the issues of getting, why we talk about this stuff early, why my prop report was out early, why this side in total were out early. If you can wait, and that's fine, but you got to wait to be betting against these moves that they're going to come, not with.
Sure, Teddy. Okay, we got one more question here. Dano in the house saying, how about first turnover prop? He likes the fumble. Have you ever been involved with that? Interception, fumble, anything like that for the first turnover?
So,
that could be an exciting one.
So first turnover, and again, I read out some turnover numbers before. The total turnovers under 2 and over under 2.5. Interception 1.5. The unders minus 140. Fumble 1.5. The under minus 270. This is the issue with fumble. All right, you can fumble, but the other team has to recover it. That's the key, and that's why the chance of a fumble and interception aren't dramatically different. There are more interceptions than fumbles, but not way more. But recovered fumbles, there are way more interceptions than recovered fumbles. And that's why you're seeing the price is where it is. So, again, to me, that's a fairly random prop. I like total turnovers under. And I wouldn't argue with under interceptions or under fumbles. So I'm not, again, you're looking for the plus price. Everyone's looking for the plus price. Look for some minus prices.
Teddy, should we wait for next week for NFL draft futures?
Yes.
First pick over? Okay. We will be back.
And I know there's been a lot of movement on that of late with the kid out of Penn State taking a bunch of money. But next week, we'll talk a little bit about NFL draft futures. We'll talk about NFL, we'll talk a little bit about the NFL draft. We'll talk about futures for next season. Be interested to see if we have win totals posted by next Monday. I doubt we will, but if we do, we'll run through them. We'll talk about the future book odds. We'll go through and grade some of these props. The show after Super Bowl Sunday, the Monday show after Super Bowl Sunday, it's a fun show. So I encourage you to come back again next week for one last edition of the Wager Talk NFL Opening Line Report before the season is through. Because going through some of these prop results and some of the crazy shit that happened, it's always a lot of fun the day after. And it gives us a chance to put a bow on the season and a bow on the playoffs and take a look ahead. So it's a show again. I mean, so the TV show, the Beat the Odds TV show that I do, this is the last week. They're done. For Wager Talk, bet on it. After this week, nothing till there's no post Super Bowl until March Madness. I like that post Super Bowl show. I think it helps. It helps me. It helps to focus. And as I talk, it helps me start thinking about it. There's some of the teams I want to be focusing on in the off season. So I encourage you to check back and hang out with us again next Monday. Because this Monday, like always, is fun. And hopefully
get you ready for the off season. Of course, Teddy has the season win total report coming out in the off season as well. I'm sure this tees you up for that. And guys, we will be back next Monday, 10 a.m. Pacific time. So come back and join us. Also, comment below. If you're watching on replay, feel free to fire away any questions. We'll answer them on next week's show. What you're looking to bet as well. Any props, side, total, all welcome in the comments below. TC and myself will be in there throughout the week chiming in. But Teddy, throw it back over to you, man. Great show as always. I think you got a 5% big ticket up here at WagerTalk.com, I believe. And anything else you want to throw out before we shut it down?
Yeah, let me give you guys some promo codes. Obviously, I love doing this show. I love providing information for you guys each and every day, each and every week. But I got a service, man. If you're interested, we have this great promo right now. The Super Bowl All Access. If you buy today, you get everything before the Super Bowl as well. But it's $99 a month for a 12. Through every play, every day, in every sport, including all 5% through next year's Super Bowl. Check it out. WT.buzz/TC. No promo code needed. You can use that for me. You can use that for Drew. You can use that for any of the cappers at WagerTalk.com. We've also got a sport-specific promo. Use Sport50 at checkout. Promo code SPORT50, Sport50 at checkout, and take $50 off a 30-day NBA All-Access Pass. NBA's starting to click, man. It took a while this year before it got going, but I'm real comfortable with where we're at right now. And as you mentioned, Drew, I do have a single 5% big ticket play available in college hoops for Monday night, for tonight. Get that right now. Again, WT.buzz/TC. Better than 60% with my college hoops 5% big tickets since 2022. Long-term success, and on a 70% 5% big ticket run across sports since last September. So check it out right now on my page, WT.buzz/TC, if you want to get on board. And if not, thank you for watching. Appreciate the comments, appreciate the follows, appreciate the likes very, very much. There's no, I'm going to sell. If you want it, get it. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not mad at you. It's okay. I know there are some people that want to get on board with a handicap, or other people don't. That's okay. But if you want to partner up, good time to do so right now, myself or Drew Martin over at WagerTalk.com.
Well said, Teddy. Big Monday going tonight in college hoops. Check it out. Teddy covers WagerTalk.com. I am Drew Martin. Guys, that's going to do it for the show. We will be back next week. Super Bowl recap, getting you ready for the offseason NFL draft talk as well. For Teddy Covers, I'm Drew Martin. Comment below. Smash that like button. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Cash those tickets, guys. Thanks for tuning in.